This is Chicago. At the dawn of the 21st century, Chicago's media was dominated by a handful of major corporations. But a resistance movement arose to free Chicago's media from their clutches. One player in this movement is the Chicago Independent Media Center and its TV show, Chicago Independent Television. The Independent Media Center is a worldwide network of grassroots correspondents committed to using the tools of the media for promoting social and economic justice. You are watching this month's dispatch from the Chicago Independent Media Center.
Welcome to Chicago Independent Television, a collection of progressive video reports by grassroots media workers produced free from corporate or commercial support or influence. In this episode, we'll visit two recent Chicago protests, one against the controversial Supreme Court ruling known as Citizens United, another against the Golden Dawn, a growing right-wing political group in Greece. And we'll also go to South Dakota to see an action led by Native Americans opposing the Keystone XL pipeline. Stay with us.
Chicago Independent Television is not brought to you by Coca-Cola, whose logo is stained red by the blood of murdered Colombian labor union organizers. Learn more at killercoke.org. Coke, the drink of the death squads.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. The controversial Citizens United ruling in the Supreme Court has escalated popular concern of corporate involvement in American elections. In this next segment, we'll join a recent Chicago protest and hear from Chicagoans concerned about the ruling and its consequences.
I think many people don't even understand what's happened in our election. They don't pay enough attention. People don't know about this. The press doesn't really cover it. They don't realize something like ALEC, that organization that is working with state lawmakers to pass many things, and it's supposedly nonprofit, but truly it's just a kind of lobbying organization for big corporations.
Basically, our elections are being bought by people, and we're not sure who they are. And it's corporations, and in many times it's not even corporations, it's just really somebody rich.
It sort of corrupts the meaning of free speech when it is the dollars that are buying the speech and the ability to speak.
It affects who's representing us, because the people who we think we're choosing or that we think we're electing, we don't sometimes know because of all the fake ads that are being sponsored by people who we don't know who they are.
This wave of outside spending is literally overwhelming the voices of ordinary citizens in our democracy.
I think we could spend our money more wisely, and I want the people to be informed.
Today there are people like you leading 100 actions in 75 cities across the country calling for money out, voters in. Money out, voters in.
We need to move back to a government that's responsive to the public, with fair, clean elections, and that means a constitutional amendment to overturn the Citizens United ruling. We need Illinois leaders to support this kind of amendment.
What's happened? It was a 5-4 decision, as you probably know, in the Supreme Court, overturning decades of rulings to prohibit the government from restricting independent political contributions by corporations and unions. Now, as Anu mentioned, this has really opened a floodgate of spending by outside groups, these super PACs. What's worse is it's done a lot by nonprofit organizations, associations, things like that, where it's really obscured who's actually behind the money. So we don't even know who's making these contributions to a large extent. This is an enormous problem. In the words of Obama, there is just nothing more devastating than this decision to our public interest than what's going on with this kind of spending when you don't even know who it's coming from in many cases.
A great American once said, "I hope that we will crush in its birth the aristocracy of our moneyed corporations, which dare already to challenge our government to a trial of strength and bid defiance to the laws of our country." That American was Thomas Jefferson. Yes, the Founding Fathers were very prescient. They knew something was on the horizon. What Jefferson had foreseen, we must now battle. Common Cause is proud to stand here with organizations such as Move On, Public Citizen, Illinois Purge, Move to Amend, and others in our joint fight to protect our democracy from those who would have us all be slaves.
Polls show that 80% of Americans oppose the Citizens United decision, and a full 72% of Americans believe we should be reinstating and support efforts to reinstate limits on these corporate and union donations.
Students are particularly vulnerable because they're often singled out to have their voting rights attacked. Last year, the Speaker of the House in New Hampshire explained that he wanted to make it more difficult for students to register and vote because young people are foolish, lack life experience, and just vote their feelings. And he said, voting liberals, that's what kids do.
You know, we can restore our democracy, but it's going to have to start with amending the U.S. Constitution to abolish corporate personhood and abolish money as speech.
We're asking you to call Senator Durbin's office, Senator Kirk's office, and ask them to support Senate Resolutions 4 and 6, both of which would end silent filibuster.
There's online efforts, Citizens United Against Citizens United, to do an online petition against this decision. You can go there and sign up. We'll be doing a resolution in the state to encourage a constitutional amendment overturning this, and happy to help in any way I can your local efforts. So thank you very much for what you guys are doing and for being out here today.
Giving away stickers for people to graffiti and vandalize our city with. Proud to say that I'm probably considered a terrorist for doing so. And believe it or not, the people who organized this rally are starting to get upset because they gave people a 1 minute allotted time to talk, and then they go up there with 15 pages to read verse from. And unfortunately, we can't tax the talking time on the microphone.
Hey, can I have one?
You very well may.
Thank you.
There you go, sir.
Hi, I'm Vermin Supreme, and whenever I'm watching some sort of moving images on a screen, it's indie media for sure.
Chicago Independent Television is not brought to you by AT&T, the company lobbying hard to destroy network neutrality and public access television. Learn more at SaveTheInternet.com. AT&T, your world degraded.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. The Golden Dawn is a right-wing extremist political organization in Greece, which won its way into the parliament in 2012. The growth of the Golden Dawn has drawn international concern, including a recent protest outside of Chicago's Greek consulate, as we'll see in this next segment.
We don't want your hate and fear. Golden Dawn's not welcome here.
My name is Mark Lickerman. I've been an activist for 50 years. I've opposed the Klan twice, once in Cicero. I've fought against the Chicago police in '63, Congress of Racial Equality. And these people who are coming are hateful. They're anti-American values, and we have our own fascists, but we have to express our opposition to racism and fascism. We just can't allow these hateful people to come to this country. We have enough of our own fascists. We don't need more fascists. Except for Indian media and a few others, they're not going to find out about it today. Unless this became a very big demonstration, they probably wouldn't even broadcast it. They don't want people to know how these people exist. It's not a good news clip.
As much as many on the U.S. left toss around the term fascism, unfortunately very casually, what we have in Greece is truly a mass fascist movement. Fortunately, still small enough to deal with, but these things can grow very quickly. And by fascism, I don't mean just some garden variety right-wing clown, of which this country is full of them, but a movement of people dedicated to forcefully pushing off the streets every other political tendency that attempts to organize, whether it's social democrats or liberals or socialists or anarchists or whomever. That is the true danger of a fascist movement, is they will physically brawl others off the streets. And because they have the police on their side, as we've seen over and over again in Greece, it's a particularly dangerous situation that must be dealt with in the streets by our side. Because the police won't do it for us, the liberals won't do it for us. That is the way that historically fascism has been defeated before it's taken power. We've still got time in Greece, we've still got time in other countries around the world, but we must understand that that is what they aim to do, is to physically push gays, blacks, immigrants, leftist parties, and anarchists of various sorts, push all of us off the streets. And this is why we need to unite against this threat before it becomes so serious that we can't deal with it. The same conditions that Greece is facing right now are faced in much less extreme form here in the United States. But understand that what drove a lot of people to fascism in Greece has been the attacks on working people's living standards, the cutbacks in pensions, cutbacks in health care, cutbacks in jobs. And we've seen all of that here in the United States. So we should not act all superior like we're somehow different here in Chicago or in the United States. But also another important angle to this whole issue is that we have a large Greek American community here in Chicago. And the fascist New Dawn Party is attempting to tap into that community to fund its thuggery in Greece itself.
They try to convince us that we should turn our anger away from the failures of the system as a whole and direct it instead at scapegoats, immigrants, leftists, people of different religions or sexual orientations.
But I gotta answer your question. Why is this happening? It is happening because the United States is an empire in trouble. The people of the world hate United States imperialism, and they are rising up against it. Yeah. And the U.S. is losing war after war. And just like during the Cold War, when they faced the socialist bloc, today they face the nations, the oil-rich nations of the Middle East, who are throwing them out. In the 50s, they came for the communists. Today, here at home, they're stoking Islamophobia and coming for the Arabs and the Muslims and the Palestinians in particular. And they came for the 23 of us, plus Carlos Montes, because we stood with the Palestinians. We stood with the Muslims, and we will continue to stand with them in resistance. In Greece, the working class is ready to kick it over. And so the rulers there are backing these punks in Golden Dawn to attack immigrants and try to divide the working class, as our previous speakers have said. And workers in Greece, just like workers here, have to have the same response. We have to beat back the racist attacks. We gotta beat back the racist attacks. Beat back the racist attacks.
We're out here today just to say that we don't support a fascist society. We don't support a racist society. We've been dealing with this for years, and it's time to put an end to it. All over the world is going on, and it's time to put an end to it. So, el pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
So we were going to deliver, a cranky letter to the consulate, but we also wrote a solidarity statement that we sent to the organizers in Athens that called for this International Day of Action at Greek consulates around the world.
Greetings from Chicago, comrades. We speak out as workers, immigrants, artists, and activists from a host of backgrounds with one message to you today. Chicago stands with the anti-fascist movement in Greece. Chicago is known as a city of immigrants, and today the people of our city and our nation confront the same threats that the people of Greece confront. A rising tide of state-sponsored repression, extreme austerity measures designed to serve the rich and impoverish the rest of us, and a growing wave of right-wing extremism. As in Greece, we fight a police infrastructure and government policy that serves its corporate masters with the tax on people of color, immigrants, and any who challenge the power of the state and the elites. In Chicago, we also confront the aspirations of the neo-Nazi Golden Dawn Party to expand its operations into our city. We have a simple response to the elites and the Golden Dawn fascists who serve their interests. No pasaran! Today we picket the Greek consulate in Chicago to condemn the collusion between the Greek authorities, the police, and the fascists in their murderous attacks on immigrants, workers, unions, autonomous social centers, anarchists, leftists of all stripes, and the poor. Our protest today is part of a groundswell of opposition in Chicago and across the United States to right-wing extremism. And no people, no nation, no progressive impulse inspires us more than the example set by the people of Greece to resist fascism and right-wing extremism. Chicago joins the people of Greece in saying no to fascism, no pasaran, no pasaran!
I'm coming out here, to oppose the rise of fascism, at points when there's a lot of, crises going on. Humanity can kind of go either way sometimes. There's more strife and turmoil. Also, we're out here in solidarity with what's going on in Greece. The rise of the Golden Dawn Fascist Party, which is like neo-Nazism, or just straight up Nazism, just again. But really, Chicago, where we are right now, is pretty much a fascist state controlled by the mayor. And a racist state at the same time. I mean, he's trying to close 100 neighborhood schools in neighborhoods of color, like essentially exclusively. They've already, been doing this for the last 10 years. Not only that, but earlier this year, I was arrested for trying to attend a city council meeting that was supposed to be public, where they voted on harsher restrictions for protesters. And, all these charges that they charge everyone from Occupy Chicago with gets thrown out. Anita Alvarez, the state's attorneys, they have secret grand jury meetings where they don't present any evidence, and then we go to court for a year. I couldn't protest for 9 months. I spent my last birthday in jail. Today is my birthday again. Last year I spent 48 hours in 18th Street. And even though they never publicly vetted any evidence against me, I couldn't protest for 9 months because if I had been arrested, I would have been guilty of a violation of bond, felony charge against me because of what they had charged me with.
I'm Jerry Boyle of the National Lawyers Guild, and you're watching Chicago Independent Television.
Chicago Independent Television is not brought to you by Walmart. There's a reason we're the world's most profitable corporation. We pay our employees peanuts. Learn more at walmartwatch.com. Walmart. Always low wages, always.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. The Keystone XL pipeline is a proposed oil pipeline extending from Alberta, Canada through the continental United States to the Gulf of Mexico. Groups opposed to this project point out that it would support the extraction of dirty tar sands oil, that it will cut a path of environmental destruction, and that it will help escalate carbon levels in the atmosphere to deadly levels. One form of opposition is an international treaty signed by the Sioux Nation in South Dakota. We'll visit the treaty ceremony in this segment.
The cancer that was rare is rampant. The sickness in the people is the sickness in the land. People don't eat the fish. People don't drink the water. You eat fish. You can't eat the birds. Most of them are sick. You can't eat the animals. You can't live off the land now. We haven't been able to get people's attention. We had a chief who worked so hard trying to get something done, trying to get some notice, and she was sick. And she died in her sickness, and she died trying to make change. Fort McMurray is where the world is going to know how sick the earth is. That's a big cancerous cyst on the land, on our Mother Earth.
Just so I feel my daughter is sacred, I feel our land and our water sacred. And that's why we say no.
We want our children to be healthy. All of us, we want our future generations to be healthy, well-being.
No more destruction to our sacred. We paddle together in one canoe.
We don't want this coming across our territory.
This Treaty of Mutual Defense and Support is made on the occasion of the 150-year anniversary of the treaty between the Pawnee and Yankton Sioux. We mutually agree that tar sands projects present unacceptable risks to the soil, the waters, the air, sacred sites, and our ways of life, including the destruction of rivers, lakes, boreal forests, homelands, and health of the Cree, Dene, and Métis peoples in the northern Alberta tar sands region and downstream Dene communities of Northwest Territories. The threat of pipeline and tanker oil spills into major river systems, aquifers, and water bodies such as the Salish Sea, the North Pacific Coast, and the Oglala Aquifer. The negative cumulative health and ecological impacts of tar sands projects on Indigenous communities, the irreparable harm to irreplaceable cultural resources, burial grounds, sacred and historic places, natural resources, and environmental resources of the Central Plains region, which is the Aboriginal homelands of many Indigenous nations, and greenhouse gas pollution that could lock the planet into a path of catastrophic climate change. We affirm that our laws define our solemn duty and responsibility to our ancestors, to ourselves, and to future generations to protect the lands and waters of our homelands, and we agree to mutually and collectively oppose tar sands projects which would impact our territories, including but not limited to the Trans-Canada Keystone XL pipeline, the Enbridge Northern Gateway, Enbridge Lines 9 and 67, or the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Pipeline and tanker projects. We agree to mutually and collectively, as sovereign nations, call upon the Canadian and United States governments to respect our decision to reject tar sands projects that impact our sacred sites and homelands, to call upon the Canadian and United States governments to immediately halt and deny approval for pending tar sands projects because they threaten the soil, water, air, sacred sites, and our ways of life, and confirm that any such approval would violate our ancestral laws, rights, and responsibilities. Article 7, we agree to the mutual, collective, and lawful enforcement of our responsibilities to protect our lands, waters, and air by all means necessary, and if called on to do so, we will exercise our peace and friendship by lawfully defending one another's lands, waters, air, and sacred sites from the threat of tar sands projects. We act with inherent lawful and sovereign authority over our lands, waters, and air, as recognized by Article 32 of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples on the 150-year anniversary of the treaty between the Pawnee and Yankton Sioux have gathered on the Ahunktawan homelands and have resolved by our free, prior, and informed consent to enter into a treaty to be forever respected and protected.
We have a decision or choices we can make. We can decide to continue to go on the road we're at, continue to go on that road. And that road we call the Black Road. And that road will lead us into deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper pain and suffering and the issues we see all around us. Hurricane Sandy, the nuclear tsunami and the nuclear issues that happened in Japan, and so many other things. And the deepening conflicts and terrorism and so forth and so on. And you know, the young people would lose hope and somewhere. Or we can take this path we call the Red Road, the road of life. That road is about healing and forgiveness, reconciliation, love and compassion, but also courage and justice. Courage and justice. And so it became very clear that in these prophecies that the foundation spiritually is the understanding of the prior unity and oneness of the human family.
You've been watching Chicago Independent Television, a project of the Chicago Independent Media Center Video Collective. The Independent Media Center is a growing worldwide network of media producers, journalists, citizens, and activists, working to put the media in the hands of everyday people and away from corporate and commercial interests. To learn more, visit our website at chicago.indiemedia.org. There you can find out about upcoming Chicago area events and how to get involved in making your own media, including how to help make this very TV show. Thanks for watching. See you next time.